Get some statistics. Speak to council members, LAC, support coordinators. Use your naivety in the beginning as a business. Don't pretend that you're a big business. Don't try and fall into that. Use your naivety and go, hey, look, I'm starting an NDIS business. This is what I'm thinking of doing. Where do you think the gaps in the market are? Or just ask questions as a naive business owner.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Healthy Business Lab podcast, where we interview allied health and related business owners to share their golden nuggets, their learnings, and their experience. And today I'm super excited. We've got Greg Chadwick on the episode today from Chadwick Digital and Simply Stronger Supports. Multifaceted, multi-varied experience here to unpick. Greg, welcome to the episode.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Craig.
Yeah, it's great to have you on board because, again, I think you've got a vast wealth of sort of experience across different perspectives around the NDIS world. And so I'd love for you, again, we always let our guests introduce themselves. They usually do it better than I ever will. But I'd love you to share. You've got a fascinating background and story as to how you've ended up doing what you do today.
Yeah, so I started off in the care sector prior to the NDIS, working in the disability sector 20 years ago. I worked in the criminal justice program, helping people kind of integrate from prison back into society who had disabilities, then kind of moved on to, I led over 300 STA camps. And along the way, I've always had a real passion for digital marketing and just marketing in general. So I've had a website design agency and a digital marketing agency. About 5 years ago, I combined those two passions and I started consulting. I just started coaching, helping people build their brands, helping people market, and really helping people start and be able to get referrals in the disability sector. So I guess my title is an NDIS strategic marketer and a business startup coach and website design. So quite a few things, but I'm also a provider myself, like you mentioned as well.
Yeah, and I think that's the interesting part of somebody who does span across living and breathing or walking the talk, so to speak. Yeah, and then you're out there helping people do the same things, which, leads very nicely into what we like to share on this podcast is, many experiments that people have done in business, because we all often learn from things that have worked, haven't worked, learnings along the way. And across that 20 years experience, I'm seeing a little nodding there. There's definitely many experiments that you would have tried over the years. Let's just throw a few out there. What are some of the experiments that stick front of mind for you that from running your business and all that?
Yeah, so I'll speak from the perspective of, I guess, helping providers at the moment. So I started in this sector doing Google ads, Facebook ads, and I really wanted to, I'm like, okay, people can get referrals through Google ads, Facebook ads, that's the thing. And I really want to help people do that. But unfortunately, we live in a world of a cap price market where you can only charge a certain amount. So if you would have wanted to hire someone like me, like $2,000-$3,000 as a strategic marketing agent on a retainer per month, then it's not really in the budget for most people. So I started diving a little bit deeper and really just hit the ground and just spoke to people like you do with your podcast, whether it's in person. And I basically set up, you can call me and I'll give you a free coaching session. And so I coached hundreds of people for free, completely free. And it was, yes, I was helping people. And that really is something that gave me a passion for coaching and kind of secured that, okay, this is definitely what I want to do, is to help people. But along the way, I was finding out pain points and problems and how can I actually implement these expertise that I have for people that don't have the budget to do it. So now I guess I have a bit of an agnostic view to what channels we're using, messaging, all that sort of stuff. So I've really built quite a lot of framework so that I can teach people without a budget. Now, give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day, teach me how to fish, he'll eat forever. So I teach people how to market for their own business, because in the beginning, we have a whole heap of different hats, especially like when we're first starting out, first couple of years, we're wearing them all until you can start buying back some of your time. My focus now is really on trust first, especially in these sectors when we have to understand that the people that we're helping are super, super vulnerable, and their parents and their primary carers and everyone, we need to be able to, more than any industry, allied health, NDIS, aged care, more than any industry, trust is probably the biggest factor. And how can we build that trust quickly? How can we stand out? How can we provide something unique and different? So that's probably been my focus for the last 5 years, and just really focusing on different ways that we can build trust and I guess build a relationship quicker than having to, spend a really long time building those connections and relationships.
Yeah, I love that. As you say, so integral to that. So I'd love to delve down into that a little bit further of what's been the evolution of approaches to be able to accelerate that whole trust. Because again, there's a lot of great providers in there, but there are, the media likes to promote the ones that aren't so much. How do people out there sort of really hone in on that trust element and be able to accelerate that for
Yep.
themselves?
Well, we live in what's called a red ocean market, which means basically there's a whole heap of competition. And we need to figure out, while we're still in this same marketplace, we need to figure out what is the blue ocean strategy that we want to kind of approach. So when we're looking for blue ocean strategy, I think what happens is people start an NDIS business and they skip a whole heap of steps first. Rather than going through the ideation of their business, they go, I'm really good at being a support worker, or I'm really good at this, and I'm going to start a disability sector. And whether it be because registration consultants or website designers or SEOs, they convince them, all you're going to do is this, throw up a website and you'll get clients, and leads that to kind of a false truth. And I hate seeing that. So one of my goals has really been to try and fix the sequence that we kind of do things in before we get to a website, which, I make a lot of my revenue off website design. But before we get to that, what is the ideation of your business? What is your product? What is your offer? What is it that we can put in front of someone that's really unique? So I describe it as being a specialist by design. Gone are the days that you can come into the NDIS and you can just start a business and get clients. Being a specialist by design means niching down. So finding that niche, hopefully something that you connect with, relate to. My organization, we support young men with autism, intellectual disabilities. FemForge supports, they support women to lead an active lifestyle. Real Supports, they support people through fishing and mental health. So understanding, okay, that's our niche. Let's dive down. If you want to expand later, that's fine. The mindset of people are like, oh, I don't want to limit myself. But there's some really, unfortunately, you limit yourself by not niching down. And actually, there's some really unethical things about not niching down. So the first step is really to find that niche, but you need to go further than just finding that niche, because in a couple of years from now, there's going to be a red ocean market in niches. So you need to go further. You need to become that super duper expert at that niche. So how much time have you spent Googling, at least go out and bare minimum, Google for 10 hours on the problems that your target audience faces, get some statistics, speak to council members, LACs, support coordinators, use your naivety in the beginning as a business. Don't pretend that you're a big business. Don't try and fall into that. Use your naivety and go, hey, look, I'm starting an NDIS business. This is what I'm thinking of doing. Where do you think the gaps in the market are? Or just ask questions as a naive business owner.
I love that. Oh, I love that simplicity of leverage your naivety. That gave me a little goosebumps because I know we all try to pretend to be big businesses. We know stuff because we don't want to look silly sometimes when we start our businesses or in different conversations. I'd love you to go into that now a little bit further because, as a human, that can be hard to do in many ways. So how have you seen people approach that idea of, again, getting the research, being naive, being super curious? Again, I love how it's sort of obviously there's quite an interplay with curiosity and the naivety idea, but I think there's obviously a difference between them that I'd love you to share your thoughts on.
Well, the fact of the matter is there's a lot of unknown unknowns right now. You're starting an NDIS business and you don't have a lot of skill sets yet. And that's okay. Double down on the skill sets that you do have, which is like providing really good support and being genuine. If you come into this industry, like especially in this sector, I think as support, we've all started off mostly support workers or that sort of stuff. We have the ability to sniff out someone who's BS. And whether it just be an inherent, something's wrong about this guy, something's weird, whether it just be that inherent intuition, we know when something's not right. So buy into your genuineness and your naivety of like, my specialty is this. I've worked with so many people with autism and intellectual disabilities. I see the gaps in the market being this. What do you think? And understand that this is like a co-design. I know that's a bit of a buzzword at the moment, but it's a co-design, a genuine discussion around, I want to make this business that's really, really good at solving a particular set of skills. Like Liam Neeson would say in his, I have a particular set of skills. solving your particular set of skills and becoming an absolute legend at solving those particular set of skills. Once you've mastered that, once you've tapped out your market, whatever, sure, move on to women living with autism and intellectual disabilities, whatever. But one of the issues with not niching down in the beginning is that, let's say you accidentally you're focused on young men with autism and intellectual disabilities. All your staff, everyone like that are really good at providing those kind of supports. If you then move on and then you accidentally get a referral who's high complexity dementia, or, sometimes referrals just come through and you're like, okay, I got to take that because of the money. Now you have to take someone who's really good at this one particular skill set and put it over there. And that's where businesses end up on 60 Minutes. That's where people get in trouble. They put unskilled workers in a position where they're not trained. And it's it's unethical for you to put the worker in there. It's unethical for you to actually think that you're providing good supports for the person living with a disability. And as your business grows, and I've worked with like multi-million-dollar companies, as your business grows, now you have solving so many different problems, and you're that person at the head of the CEO, at the head of the company that's just tearing your hair out because you can't do the rosters. Because there's so many different things going on. So yeah, so that's, I guess, one of the issues of niching down, not niching down. And just back to, I know I go off a tangent, but that's
I love a tangent. That's what this fight's all about. We want to see where people go. It's great.
in case you haven't figured out, I'm neurodivergent. I have ADHD. So that's where some of this sort of stuff might go. So yeah, like one of the approaches is that, especially when people go into this, is they just email support coordinators and they just start saying, hey, can I get some clients? Can I get some clients? And back to your question, is buying into that naivety gives you, I guess, a leg up, because you can have a genuine connection and conversation. As a rule of thumb in marketing, 7 touch points before someone wants to work with you. And that's actually blown out to about 11 touch points in this digital age. So we want to have more and more touch points. So when I'm calling a support coordinator, like cold calling, that's fine. I'm okay with you attempting cold calling, but you got to have something to offer them, something unique. Oh, cool, I've got this Dungeons and Dragons event coming up on the weekend. I'd love to send you some more information. Can I send you an email? Now you've got permission to send an email. I understand your time's important. Then you connect with them on LinkedIn. Then you call them a week later. Hey, did you get my email? That's 4 touch points right there. And then hopefully, hey, which networking events do you like to go to? More and more and more touch points with people.
Yeah, that's cool. And that's actually interesting you went there, because you were talking earlier around the sequencing matters, and you say, I was going to touch upon that idea. Hey, you've got your niche, you know who you're talking to, who you want to go to. What have your experience of seeing, many of the business that you work with in getting their offer right, and how your offers evolve over time? Because that's, as you said there, I've got this offer. So I'd love you to sort of talk in that sequence here. It's obviously, I know I found in my own business, once you've got super clear on that offer, it can be an absolute game changer. So what's some of the experiments that you've seen in people evolving their offers over time?
Yes, and exactly. And that's the point, a good point that you just mentioned. Your first offer very potentially will suck. There's a good chance that it's not going to work, but you will collect some data. And that's what you just have to understand. You have to imperfect action. You have to try something. Definitely do your research, understand the problems of the people are facing. It always has to revolve around the problems that they face. And can you get someone a quick win in that offer? I would say barbecue in the park is not a good offer. That is just feeding someone's stomach. That is not attacking a pain point. Maybe if you did barbecue in the park, and I'm going to teach you how to use a barbecue and do some daily living skills or something like that, if you were to involve something like that. One of my students, frontline friends, he started a disability gaming company, and they did a big open day, had a heap of people come, and they did a barbecue. So that was, I guess, added value to this tournament, this event. It was really successful. He got a bunch of leads out of it. So that's just kind of an example. So when we look at offers, so I'm really big on offers. I've actually developed inside the NDIS space what I would call IKEA framework, which is basically there's 6 different offers that I will go through with people to see if we can, one's the identity offer, which is understanding your niche. The other one's an attraction offer, which is getting your target audience with the room, collaboration offers, retention offers, all these sorts of things. So focusing on, what are different offers we can provide. Another one is going to be an end goal offer. So that's like a transformation. In 10 weeks, we're gonna teach you how to cook 10 different recipes, and you're gonna leave with this skill set kind of thing.
Yep.
So.
And that's so good. And even in what you've just outlined there, the idea that these 6 within your frameworks that you're using actively, you got 6 types of offers that you could experiment with. Within each of those 6, there's countless sort of
Endless.
potential options that come off the back of that as well. And so with that idea of, I'd love to hear your what sort of timeframes do you often talk to people and clients around as to how long to try an experiment of, not say a different offer, if we're talking offers, to work out whether it's getting that feedback, enough time to get the feedback. Some people give up very early. Sometimes you do need to nip something in the bud. How do you find that part of experimenting with how long to stick with, a chosen path?
Yeah, exactly. It is a bit of every situation is different, but it's a very good point because what we're doing, like from a marketing perspective, is we're collecting data. So you have to test. And one of the biggest issues I see is people give up too early. They say, I tried Facebook ads, I tried this, and I tried that. Well, how much did you do? Well, I called 5 people. Okay. Well, my rule of thumb for my students is minimum of 20 new connections per month, and then reconnect with 10 older connections because you've got to maintain relationships. Now, I work with people who do 50 a week. So you could see, the volume discrepancy and this sort of stuff really compounds. You just make 20 connections per month. In a year's time, is that 160? You got a whole heap of
240, you're out.
yeah. Right. Good one. Yeah, so it compounds and it compounds out of control. And within those connections, there might be a handful of people that you actually gel with, you connect with, and you build genuine relationships that might become referral partners. But we don't go into it with that mentality. We go into it with reciprocity, give and you shall receive, and it will come back to you. So
Yeah, cool. Love that. I always want to talk about transformations now. Now the other thing about it, because again, I think actually sequencing, I'll go back to sequencing. So again, I love the idea of sequencing. Again, I know that my own personal experience has been when sequencing really refined. So what's your, niching offer? What's your wider framework of the sequencing side of things?
yeah, so it's really ideation and then coming up with a minimal viable product. So when I say ideation, I mean like first you need to understand who your target market is. Like who do you want to support? And that could be, I think personally, that should be something that you have had a relationship with, that you love to work with. You don't want to start a business that you're going to hate in 5 years. There might be a gap in the market there and you're like, oh, I see a gap in the market there, I can attack it. But should you? So understand that this is my skill set. Don't start from the beginning. This is my skill set. I don't have to start from the beginning because I already have this skill set. Now, how can I leverage that skill set? So in our group program that I run, we figure out who your target market is. And then the next step is to write down 10 problems that they face on a daily basis. You can write more if you want to, but just look at the 10 problems and what are the 3 most important problems, because while those 10 might be important to you, they might not be as important to the person living with a disability. And you might have to have a conversation with someone with autism or their parents or support coordinators to find out what is the most poignant problem. So once we've done that, we figured out their pain points, then it's time to come up with some kind of proof of concept. So I would actually, even before you choose your business name, you can do this. Especially as an independent support worker, put on a free event, test it. If people are willing to, if you can put on a free event and put it on a Facebook group and people go, yeah, cool, interested, and it's really interesting, you've got your target audience in a room now that you can talk to them. Now you can build a relationship, build some research, and let them know, hey, I'm actually going to start a business supporting young men with autism and intellectual disabilities. And I was thinking of running this group actually more often. Maybe I'm going to run it 6 weekly. Maybe I'm going to run it monthly or whatever. So when we create attraction events, you can have like weekly ones, you can have 6 weekly ones, you can have once a year, quarterly, and it all depends on like how big and how much of an effort. And a simple boxer size class or something like that, that's a weekly thing. Easy to pull off, low friction. So once we've got that minimal viable product and we know that there's an audience there that we could actually support, then we can build a disability service and we can start offering the line items of daily living and community access and all that sort of stuff. But we have to connect with our audience first.
Yeah, that's cool. And you touched on minimal viable product a few times within that, and I'll throw a little spin in there. I love using the term minimum lovable product. It comes from the software side of things, which is kind of like a step before viable, in as much as you're talking about some of these free events. You're like, well, people love these.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that gets out of the line. And then you ask the question is kind of then, oh, can this be viable? Which ties into, I guess, what you're talking about before of offer and the light items and different stuff like that. So yeah, it's an interesting one there. But now I do want to get into some of the transformations you've seen when people have, put these things into place, the sequencing and just getting this all lined up and being curious and naive and the like. Well, what have you seen happen off the back of that?
So in my experience, It is not an overnight thing. This is like a 4 to 6 month process. By 4 months, we probably have enough data and you're probably starting to get some traction and starting to build some connections. If you've put in the work, if you understand that early days, you have to work harder. Definitely, you have to grind, you have to put in the work, and you have to do those 16-hour days. It's just starting a business. Unfortunately, you might be working at the same time and you're starting a business. You have to just grind, and things will get easier when you start to buy back some of your time. So I guess I'll use an example of Celestine from Inner Knowing Respite. So what we did with her, and I actually recorded this whole video, our video. If anyone like a copy, definitely reach out to me. I'm happy to send it to you. But it's inside of my coaching group, so you won't find it online anywhere. So basically, we went through and we built what I would call her perfect month. And that's what I help people do, is to get enough data so that we can build their perfect month. And what are the 10 things that I guess, okay, if I do this, this, and this, and this, we don't see like huge spikes of referrals, no referrals. We just see a steady, we might have a down month every now and then. And it's probably because you didn't have as many connections or you didn't stick to your perfect month or whatever. Sometimes it can be the market, but usually it's just, maybe it's been Christmas and it's and you took some time off and it's a little bit inconsistent. So with her, basically we started out and we did a big open day gala event where she had like belly dancers, and her target audience is mature age women with mental health, like belly dancers, mandala making, crafts, meditation, all that sort of stuff. Worked fantastic. Got a heap of people to it. At the end of it, when we reflected, she's like, I can't do that on a regular basis. That was massive and it took it out of me. It was a lot of energy. But sometimes you got to do that to launch. Your launch is a big thing. So put a lot of effort into it. She learned a lot. There was a heap of takeaways that we could have from that. And then we decided, okay, let's go in and we figured out what was the most popular thing, which was the data we took, and it was the sewing group, which was her skill set anyway. So she started a sewing group and she filled her sewing group, and now that's full every week. It kind of sucks because we can't actually leverage that as an attraction event anymore. So she's got to do another attraction event. So that's full, which is fantastic. About month 4, she completely sold out. So she got 4 respites in 1 month, completely sold out her community access and had a full sewing group. And that was just from us collecting data, doubling down on what worked, and then keep testing new stuff. Collect data, double down on what works until you get a list of things of like, okay, all of these things are the things that work, and this is my perfect. And some of them was like, let's say cold calling. She was like, I'm okay doing cold calling, but I'm not doing more than like 8 a month. Like that, it's not something I enjoy. I don't like it. So that's something you have to consider too. In the beginning, you have to do things you don't like. You just kind of have to, but eventually, hopefully you can build something where you can either outsource it or you can buy back your time where you just go, I just don't like it, not doing it. So I'm getting enough from other places.
That's a cool transformation and again, showing that sequencing and the process and the data and the experimenting. And also I can just picture the ripple effects of Celeste having filled those classes and the impacts that then flows on or off the back of that. So that's super cool.
There was a whole heap of different things. Like it was like networking meetings. It was the big launch. So there was like 10 things that we ended up with 8 because we took away 2 things so she didn't like to do it. There's a couple of cold calls. There was a whole heap of different things. We threw stuff at the wall, see what sticks in the beginning. And then you double down on what's working and don't put as much effort into other things and just keep testing.
Yeah, so good. Testing and experimenting and a lot of just throwing stuff at the wall. But again, the data is key in that. So you're making sure you've got the process to actually capture that. And then if you've got that, then you can make intentional, informed decisions at the end of the day. Yeah. So yeah, that's so good. And it's very aligned with how we talk and the like as well, that get the data, be clear. And then you can, at the end of the day, you can just make intentional decisions. And
it doesn't have to be perfect data either. Like imperfect data is okay in the beginning. You know,
a little sheet where you're just ticking boxes is a great way to collect some data. That's how I do it. Some things that I'm doing right now, actually. So, yeah, it's great. Awesome. Well, appreciate you having you on the episode today. There's been a bunch of little nuggets that obviously the listeners will get that can help them, step through those processes. But highly recommend people come in and have a chat with you as well to help them with that. Where is the best place for people to find you, Greg?
Definitely my website, Chadwick Digital. I've got all the ways that you can connect with me, as should you. And yeah, if you need help with your website design or anything around referrals in the allied health space, because that's my niche, niche NDIS. I don't help anyone else.
Love it. So as always, we'll be including those details in the show notes. And once again, I really highly recommend following Greg's content because that's what I've been doing and that's how we got connected. So that's been great. Thanks again, Greg.
Thanks so much for having me, man.
Over and out from the Healthy Business Lab podcast, which is what I usually do, stuff the intro and the outro. You know what to do. Like, subscribe, do all those things to see great content like this. Catch you later, everybody. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Healthy Business Lab podcast. Make sure you subscribe to keep up to date with all the latest episodes.